Thank you so much for having me. I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of experimentation. I am a scientist and get to have one of the coolest jobs within smart building certification, I think, is connecting the science to this, getting universities and different partnerships involved in looking at the outcomes of this. And one of the things that's come up over and over again in some of our talks is the importance of experimentation, getting started, which can sound a little it's an easy thing to say, right? But there's a real power in getting started. So for instance, I did a project a couple years ago with booking.com where they had a situation where they had a huge sound problem. They had a lot of people complaining about noise. Booking.com has a ton of technical jobs, a lot of people who are what many would call deep focus workers, where they're really into their work. They get distracted easily. They need to really have that deep focus in their work. So they had a couple of things put together. Someone said, could we buy sound canceling headphones for most of the office, which if you do the math is a few thousand noise canceling headphones by a couple €100 each. So that was one expensive solution that probably wouldn't last too long into the long term. And then they came up with the idea, could we look at this? Could we experiment a little bit with different workplaces? We're building a new headquarters. Can we figure out a sound solution that really answers the question, but also has a little bit more functionality than people tuning out and covering their ears? So before I get into that, it's important to know that there's different sound thresholds for people. So people have different kind of immunity to it or are very sensitive to it. And while the research is, of course, complex, sound is normally very disturbing for people who are more introverted, who have more deep focused work, who are not as collaborative in their job nature. What we see is that personality types usually also kind of push people into certain paths. It's not 100% true, but what you see is that people who are less extroverted are more likely to do work that's more focused themselves in doing their work on their own for at least a part of the time, although work is getting more and more collaborative all the time. People who are more extroverted are more likely to go for jobs that are more collaborative, more team building, a lot more meetings. They get energized by the meetings. So that kind of makes sense. So we put together an experiment where we took over an entire floor of booking.com. We made it this huge living lab and used sound sensors, used health sensors, measured a bunch of different things in the building, measured perceptions of the different workers, and it was fantastic. And we found out a lot of things within this experiment, a lot of things where after we combined a huge amount of data from a variety of different places and millions of data points, we realized that people preferred a place that they had the most space around them, the least sound, to a place that they actually rated was more beautiful, more aesthetically pleasing. They really wanted that kind of solace. And that being said, they also said, but please, we love the more beautiful areas that maybe are a little bit tighter. We don't have as much room, more social areas. So what we ended up doing was actually designing the booking.com campus based on sound, where we said different noise thresholds should have a place in different parts of the building. Social areas should be able to be noisy and not be too close to a deep focus area where people want some quiet, and have smaller areas for people to have their intense deep focus areas that they can shut off completely without having a real office. They can have a mini office for hours or the day. And what was amazing about this is we learned about sound. We learned about what sound needed to be for the people, but all of these other things came out of it too. We learned the different functionality of workspaces. We learned the quantification of sound can actually be a really less political way of addressing noise complaints in certain areas. There's always, the loudest person in the office, and how do you deal with that human interaction and that sort of expectation when you quantify it, you can make it a little bit less personal. How do you separate workspaces for different types of people? So our small experiment in the beginning ended up giving this huge, rich database into the type of profiles that worked at booking, the different ways we could set up the new system, very simple solutions that we didn't expect, but we found out on the way. So I really want to sort of champion the idea of getting started, because you'll find a lot about what you want along the way, but I think there's a huge asset in getting that data, and it all starts with beginning with what is the problem you're trying to solve. A lot of times with smart buildings, we look at the technologies, what are the solutions that they give, but really we've heard over and over again, what is the solution that you're trying to solve? And a lot of builders, for instance, are now building living labs where they're testing solutions, which is a very pound-wise, penny-foolish approach. They've invested in their smart strategy. They really want to know what the technology does, that it's reliable, that it actually is easy to use, that it can work well in their system. The platform is something they like to engage with. It's an amazing thing. And a lot of buildings are actually spending, 2 or 3 times the technology that they need to make sure that they're covered in certain areas. So the experimentation by some is going to be hugely beneficial in the future, and it's something that we're seeing from some key players in the industry, but we're seeing it more and more in the norm. So it's an incredibly powerful way to invest in this area, and as this grows, to really be ready for that. If that makes sense. Voucher, I think I took too much time, but do you have any questions for me or comments?
No, you didn't take too much time. It's always nice to listen to you.
Yeah, well, I love being the scientist and one of the scientists in the group. I think it's a fun way. But maybe we can talk a little bit. We have a lot of living labs that are kind of coming into smart building certification, and we also have a solution certification that's coming out. Is that worth talking about in the next couple of minutes?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. Tell about it.
Yeah, it's been upon request for a while, and we've been working hard on it, but we actually have a solution certification where we're going to test different solutions for a bunch of different things, and actually certify solutions to help promote them, or help give some guidance a little bit for areas that people want to grow into. It's a really amazing way for PropTech companies to show what they can do, to show that they are compliant with the certification, that they will help get that gold or maybe even platinum certification, and be part of that ecosystem, integrative design, everything with that. So it's an amazing thing that we're really excited about. We're launching very soon, I think, but we already have a bit of a line, I think, for companies that, the companies want to get it already. So please get in contact with that. We should be launching soon, and it's certainly a good idea to get in line now.
Yeah, cool. So what can you tell about the buildings that we're certifying right now? Because of course we cannot name the buildings and the countries and different kind of stuff, but what do we see happening right now in the space of smart buildings?
It's amazing, and it's so impressive that the buildings that we're certifying now were being planned a few years ago. So these buildings have really done their homework. What we're seeing right now is we have a lot of buildings that were pretty confident that they do well in the certification, and I think for good reason. They have done an amazing job, but it's kind of like the booking example. They've started with smart, they've made these amazing buildings, but all of these other things have started to fall in place too. Different business models, different revenue expectations, different the return on investment we're seeing is already, we're saying, what is the return on investment of a smart building? We're already seeing buildings being sold for more, being rented out faster, being rented out completely, being rented out for a higher value. So what we're seeing is these smart buildings, especially the ones that are being certified, are being recognized already by banks, by tenants, by landlords. It's really incredible, and it's something that I think as this knowledge kind of grows, will really push this market even faster.
Yeah, I hear also some change in the United States. Of course, you're going back to the United States to visit your family during the holidays, but you also
Yep.
have some business meetings, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you expect from your travel to the United States?
I think what's been amazing in this is just who we're talking to, and the different levels of involvement, of where they are in their smart process. What we're really seeing with our meeting set up in the U.S. is that we have some amazing buildings. We have some buildings that are incredible structures, but are kind of just getting started with their smart process. We have some great PropTech companies, also some great consultancy agencies, which are really helping along this way. You know, there's this huge potential, and I think anybody who's watching the market is expecting the U.S. to have quite a big pop in this area and have a lot of catch up, if you can say that. In the coming months to a year. So I really expect that we're going to see a ton of action in this industry, and certainly from the meetings that we've set up, that's quite indicative that that's what's going to happen.
Cool. Well, I'm ready to talk to you again when you're back from the United States, and enjoy your holidays as everybody, and hope to see you back soon.
Thanks for having me, Wouter. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.